Hey friends, Dave Noddig here. Wanted to do a brief video on how I'm using Claude code specifically to sort of recapture my workspace and start removing some of the garbage. When I launch my desktop, you'll see now I have absolutely nothing, and then I launch a terminal window. It's basically 4 instances of what's called Windows System for Linux, but these could just be local command lines either in your Mac or on your PC. So here I've got just a quick menu that I set up in the shell. So let's go ahead and we'll launch Claude in one window up here. We're going to launch my dashboard in another window over here. We're going to launch my file manager and another window over here, and I'm going to leave this lower right hand one open. So this is sort of how I get started with my workspace. I have various ways of syncing everything. I won't get into that at the moment, but I've got my agent window in the upper left. I've got my dashboard in the upper right. I've got the files, the artifacts, the things I'm actually working on accessible in the lower left. And then I've got sort of opportunity over here on the right. All of this I set up by just asking Claude to do it. So for instance, this upper right-hand corner, this dashboard, I literally just asked Claude to help me build a dashboard that would talk to my Google Calendar, my Google email, Twitter, and a bunch of RSS feeds to news sources I liked. It'll also show me what's playing in my music player, what the weather is today and tomorrow, and the temperature in the house, so I can control that from my office. Now, a lot of these things I could do from my phone, I could do from any computer, but notice what's not here. There's no advertising, there's no calls to action, there's no other things to click on. The only things I can interact with are actually what I want to interact with. I want to open up this article here. I can just hit return, and it will open exclusively this article in Chrome. No tabs, no bookmarks, no anything else except the actual article that I want to read. And when I'm done with that article, I click close. None of this is fancy. I just told Claude that's what I wanted, and it made it so that every time I click on one of these links, it exclusively opens up a single page with as minimal advertising and interaction as possible. Same thing with tweets over here. If I want to, I can load the last hour of tweets from the accounts I'm following. And if I open these up, I can see the tweet. If I really want to engage with it, I crack that open with an enter key. And here I am in Mark Dow's feed. Again, I can interact with it, and then I close it, and then it goes away. So let's try to do some actual work here, and I'll show you what I mean. Claude, what are we working on today? Now it's going to go read a bunch of documents that I've left as breadcrumbs. It's going to go look at all the projects I'm working on. It's going to tell me the stuff I've got to do. Okay, ETF Zoo. Let's say I want to get this started. I don't really remember who I've had on the ETF Zoo over the last couple of weeks. So I'm just going to say, hey, Claude, do a little bit of research and make a list of everybody that's been on every episode of the ETF Zoo. You can probably grab that from either ETF.com or from the YouTube channel. Now it's going to go think for a minute. And welcome to working with agents. The first thing you need to recognize is it may take a few minutes to do that because it's not going to do it very simply. It's going to go actually search all of those websites. It'll probably crawl through my file system to come up with the best answer it can. Meanwhile, I'll launch another version of Claude over here, and I'll say, hey, let's get up to speed on recent ETF data using my ETF data tool. So it loaded a skill, which I made with Claude called ETF Explorer. Now it's going to go load that ETF data because it's previously run a system to go pull all the ETF data down into a local database. So it's currently loading all that stuff in here. Meanwhile, in the upper left, I've got it doing some other work. So we can see down here in the right, it's now gone and done its ETF market snapshot. This is as of January 16th data, which is pretty good. It's showing me the flows year to date, which is 100 billion in 2 weeks. Not bad. Total ETFs, current themes, etc. Now, because it knows where to find all this in context, I can now have a whole conversation with the system about this ETF data. So I can just say, make me a list of every issuer who is nominated for an award. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell it where to find that by just typing award. It knows where every file in my system is. So here's the awards folder. That's probably all it needs. So I'll just hit tab. In a table with 2026 year-to-date flows. So it's going to go grind and work on that. Now let's go see what's going on here in this upper left-hand corner. Okay, this is everybody that it thinks that I have had on the show. So this is phenomenal, right? I didn't have this in a list somewhere. So now I can say, oh, this is really helpful. I know I have a project called ETF Zoo. I can just say, this is great, Claude. Can you go ahead and make a list of all of these folks in a document for ETF Zoo for potential guests? It's now just going to make a brand new document that's going to show up here. But while it's doing that, let's go down to the lower right and see what it's come up with over here. So here's a list of everybody who's up for an award. It knows that because it looked at my awards sheet and their current year-to-date flows and the number of ETFs they had. Notice I didn't ask for a bunch of these things. This is baked into the skill because every time I use it, I say, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. Please alter this and fix it. So it's now created this piece of work here. This isn't really an artifact. This is a conversation. But if I wanted to now use this, I could say, make me a pretty PDF of just this table. And so I can scroll through the list here and I can say, oh, okay, bunch of interesting stuff here. Wow, Hedgeye's got 3 funds. I'm going to say, okay, well, once you're done with that, make me 3 fact sheets for the 3 Hedgeye ETFs. Make sure that you verify the fundamental data by checking their website and at least one third-party ETF data source as well. Okay, well, meanwhile, here's the PDF. It just popped up for me of the folks that are nominated for awards and their flows year to date. So we can see everybody here. Obviously, this is a useful thing to do. I'm trying to put my schedule together. I want to connect with people down in Florida. Now I know who's there. I know who's having a good year, etc. Meanwhile, back over here, I asked Claude to make this list of folks. If I don't want to search around it, I can just say, open that file in VS Code, which is the app that I use to edit. There we go. And now this is the file it came up with. This is Markdown. This is sort of the native language of software engineering, which sort of doesn't look all that pretty, but it's very readable when you look at it in preview mode. So here we go. Here's all the list of people that we've had on shows so far. Here's the episode history, what we talked about, potential future guests. So I can now edit this directly. I can just start typing in here. I can just close this and I can say, hey, go ahead and add Kirsten Chang from Vetify as a potential. Let's say that I want to actually work with some data. So one of the things that I've worked with Claude is to build a bunch of tools. So for instance, the Twitter tool is really just this piece of Python code that runs and goes and grabs Twitter. Now, I didn't write any of this code. Most of this is code that already existed that it found in somebody else's repository. These are tools that I can call from the command line. A big one that I made is called the ETF data tool. This has a bit more going on to it. But if I just go into a command line over here and I type ETF, Claude has helpfully written a whole help file for me on how to use it. So I can just say ETF process and go get new data. So it's going to now go through a set of, okay, what data source do I want to use? I know that I can pull a bunch of this from Amazon Web Services. I select that. I just want to get the most recent data, so I'll pick the 19th. I have a couple of other checks I can do here where I can say go do a separate pull from FactSet. I'm going to say no. I can have ETF.com pull a custom flows period. So let's say I really want to know what 19 months of flows were. I could do that there. It goes through, runs this whole process, and I've now got what's called a skill for Claude that lets me interact with that data. So if I go ETF chat, top 10 commodities ETFs by 2026 flows so far. And there you go. There's its list. And again, if I want to pretty this up, I can, but I personally like working in this environment. So this is my workflow, right? I've got documents in one place. I've got a dashboard to keep me connected to the world. I have these two windows, which I sort of move between keeping track of tasks. If I have more tasks, I just spawn another window and another version of it. I still have apps that I have to use on the web. So if I hit C here, it's just going to pop a Chrome window, where I can just go to my email and check my email like everybody else. If I want to, pop up my Slack, I can just put S and it'll pop up my Slack. And again, I just close it and get it out of the way. If I want it again, I come back over here, it pops it, close it, get it out of the way. The net effect of all this for me is that it's removed so much garbage from what I'm working on, and it's presenting me with just the information. So it's not so much that Claude is doing my work for me, it's helping me maintain a work surface where I can actually be effective, which tends to be around data, around words, around documents. And I don't have to then continue to interact with this very adversarial web relationship. Before I leave, I want to show you my favorite tool that I made. And I think this shows you where we're headed in terms of the mass customization that an agentic system is really going to allow. So music is really important to me. I tend to listen to two things, Spotify and SiriusXM. So I had Claude help me make an audio player, which is very simple. Here are the channels that I like to listen to on SiriusXM. Here are my playlists over on Spotify. If I click on SiriusXMU, it just starts playing SiriusXMU. What do we got? Hot Chip. All right, there we go. Lovely. Now, if I really love this song, the problem I've always had is I got to quick write that down, remember to go over to Spotify, or if I'm in the middle of doing something, I honestly just won't remember. But now I can just come back over to this interface, hit the A button, and it will immediately go find the song that's playing on Spotify. So I hit F, favorite that thing, go back to listening. I'm done. But now when I go back to my playlist, it's going to be there. These kinds of sort of deliberate customizations, which are going to be inherently fragile, but very personal, feel like the future of software to me. Why would I use Spotify's incredibly crusty engine that's got lots of stuff in it I don't want, when I can just directly build the interface I want from scratch? None of this is pretty. That's on purpose. Thanks for listening, and I hope some of this will be helpful. And if you don't know how to do any of this, I swear to God, launch Claude Code and ask it.